Welcome back, guys. This is part 2 of Promises over Plans. And so, leaving off from yesterday, we were just talking about working within the rhythm of God's voice, taking steps when He says, and letting His promises be the thing that lead us. Well, one question we sometimes can ask ourselves, especially when we're in business, or these are talking about the plans for our family or wherever God has you, ministry, whatever that is, that what about those worthy goals? What about those things that it's just kind of par for the course in whatever business you're in, or whatever family dynamic you have, whatever ministry you're in, that there are things that are just kind of specific to that call that are normal to have as goals. And it may be things that you set every year and things that you already know how to do. And so do we have to run those by God too, when we already know that that is something that He would consider worthy? And that's a great question. But I want you to take a look at 1 Samuel 30 and look at the story of what's going on with David. What happened here, if you, just for time's sake, I'm going to kind of paraphrase, but what happened is David and his warriors, they go off to war, and they're gone, this is a crusade of the Lord. They've been sent to fight a battle, and they come back home and they realize that their wives and their children are gone. They've been taken captive while they were away. And so in that moment, David and all of these warriors, they're so heartsick. And the Bible says that they cried until they could cry no more. They had no more tears. And the soldiers were ready to stone David because they're thinking, here we are, we're following your lead. You said God told us to do this, and we come back and our families are gone. Now, in that moment, I want you to think about how would you feel if you knew your family had been taken? Like, who would you ask if you should go pursue them? Should you go find them? Would you even think that it was a question of whether you should go rescue your family? And we see that David, in all the frustration that he was feeling, and the sadness and the heartbreak and the concern for not just his family but for the soldiers that he led, the Bible says that he strengthened himself in the Lord. And that means that he had to have a moment in which he came back to a place of his foundation, came back to his center with the Lord. And you see in the next verse, I believe it's 8, where he asked God, should we pursue, and will we win? Should I go get my family? Will I get to recover them? And of course, if you're familiar with the story, God says yes, and go recover all. But isn't that interesting that even with a goal so worthy as rescuing his family and the families of those that were fighting this war in the name of God, should they go pursue their own families that were lost, that were taken into captivity? What kind of question was that? Of course. But see, even in those moments, those goals that we consider worthy, the things that we feel like, oh, of course God would want me to achieve that, we have to be very mindful to still ask Him first, to still talk to Him first, because the thing about it is that pursuit, He may have a new strategy for you, or it may be that there's a timing issue. And what we see in this story is that David and the soldiers were able to recover everything. That means their families were safe. And so when we understand that following God's voice, even in the things that we think we know, okay, is important, because it's not only important for our own victory, but it is also as important for the preservation of what it is that we're pursuing. You see, in that covering of God's steps, ordered steps, was also the preservation of His family. So victory and preservation in what you're asking for is absolutely key to walking further into God's promises. So I hope that helped you today. Yes, I think I'm going to do a little bit more. So stay tuned. We'll see you tomorrow. Blessings to you all. Bye.